Yo, 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 yo. Pronounce it like the letter, don't say it at all. It's your boy S, and this is BARZ Wrestling Media. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for more content. Coming up next, we talk about R-Truth and his release from WWE and a bunch of other things with special guests, the wrestling historian, Jay Styles. We're going to talk about it coming up next. BARZ Wrestling Media. Yeah. It's your boy S.
Bill got that sound, boy.
About to stack up them commas.
Motion detected at garage.
We back. So, today,
Hey, what's up, bro?
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's good? So today we're going to talk about R-Truth getting released from WWE. It's feeling this whole situation feels like Luka Doncic when he got traded to the Lakers. This definitely feels that way. It almost feels like there was some foul play going on behind the scenes for this to happen, because ain't nobody seen this coming. Not even R-Truth. Not even R-Truth.
Yeah. You know, it's so many ways you can look at this from a wrestling perspective versus, professional sports in the United States.
Motion detected at garage.
The thing about it is, people were saying Vince McMahon would never do this to R-Truth. Or, if he was still running WWE, he didn't sell it to TKO and Endeavor. Truth will have a lifetime contract, if you will. And I believe that to a degree. But also, if you try to make mergers and, other business deals on the side, and you can't afford, veterans like R-Truth, you got to do what's best for business in that regard, even if it ruffles the WWE Universe fan base, concerning R-Truth. But also, we got to look at it from a perspective like R-Truth. They say he's 52. We've heard other people say he's around 55. Okay, he's in his 50s. Let's get that out the way. He's in his 50s. He has a daughter who's a teenager, who's very talented, a multi-talented artist, both dance and hip-hop as a rapper. And he's producing her as far as her musical career goes. So he's spending a lot of time at home with his daughter. So by him not being tied in the WWE gives him more free time to continue to bond with his teenage daughter, in my opinion. But if you're looking at it from like, oh, this man, he's the national treasure. He brings relief, comic relief, in the segments backstage or in the ring or whatever. True. That's going to be missed. That's definitely going to be missed. Nobody's disputing that. And what he brings as far as a morale booster, that's definitely going to be missed. One of the guiding lights in the locker room area for both men and women. It's going to be missed. But like the saying goes in show business, the show must go on. That's how you have to look at it. Even as a fan, you in displeasure, the show must go on.
So
the last time I've seen something.
Not to cut you off, but I heard you say a lot about business. So I want to say this, right? So is it really about business? Because, like, let's be for real. Like, R-Truth was way over with the fans for so many years. And not to mention, he had merch that was selling out all the time. You know what I'm saying? He was a locker room leader. He was favored by just about every single person in the company. You know what I mean? So if we're going to say it's about business, I don't know. I just feel that's kind of like, I kind of have a problem with that, because, like, I think it's much more than business. I think it's more or less like they're trying to get rid of the Vince regime. Anybody that had ties to Vince, they're trying to get out of there. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Triple H might get released one day. You know what I mean? TKO is trying to rebrand WWE to what they feel is professional wrestling should be. That's what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing
That's
is,
very well could be true. And a lot of people have been speculating that, not just you and I, other people on in that wrestling community, long time podcasters like Chris Emily, over there in Busted Open Radio, those guys, they all have an opinion. And it's interesting enough that Mark Henry went on the record earlier today and said that um, if WWE called him up, or Truth called him up and said wanted him to say a few words, you know, before he leaves, he'll be willing to stop what he's doing and do it, whether it's a video homage or whatever it is they need him to do, he'll do it for Truth. That's his boy. I was shocked at, to be honest with you, boss. I was shocked more so with Roman Reigns. His comment.
yeah. So I didn't know what Roman Reigns said. I was looking for it for the past few, like last 30 minutes. I was looking for it, and I could not find what he said. Can you elaborate what he said and everything like that, or paraphrase however you want to do it?
So it's a video out of them together, like back when he first came into WWE, a part of the Shield. Okay, that's where most of the video is from, and they out this in front of some building, and it's like you can see it's near water, so it has to be somewhere in Tampa, it has to be somewhere in Florida, basically. And Truth and Roman Reigns cutting jokes, laughing, giving each other bro hugs and everything, just laughing, having a good time. And in the comment, while the video is playing, and it's also like a short Twitter message. It's saying the bond is inseparable. I'm going to miss the times we shared with each other. The legacy will live on as long as I have something to say. As far as him still being in WWE, Roman Reigns, that is, he's going to carry out Truth's legacy as far as being one of the locker room leaders, being one of the learning trees moving forward. Because believe it or not, Roman is not, the way he presents himself on television is not who he is once he gets backstage in gorilla position. He's not the same dude. Let's get that out the way. So that message that Roman said, it's a testimony to how much of an impact he's had to just any and everybody that's set foot in the WWE since he's been there. And the one that really kind of made me tear up a little bit, to be honest with you, was the photo Natalya had that they both shared a hug together backstage. When Natalya wasn't really on WWE television when she first came into WWE, she was still doing indies, so she was much younger, and Truth was still young. So I think that photo that they took happened to be in Memphis at the time. And when they were both doing indies in Memphis, but both signed to WWE. And that was a lengthy paragraph that I read it word for word, and I felt it. I felt what Natalya was saying and how she was expressing her gratitude and the love for R-Truth. Because Natalya is like R-Truth, but on the women's side. If Natty is released by WWE, the impact and repercussion behind it is going to be just as significant. Mark my word. If that day comes where it's not a mutual decision, it's going to be some repercussions in the locker room in terms of morale in the women's division and for the guys that's been there that has, been either trained by Natalya in some form or fashion or gotten some learning tree experience from her. But also I have to look at it like this, Bars. You mentioned you don't really think it's being a business decision. If it's not really a business decision, then why is, out of all legends, Trish Stratus on a second multi-year Legends contract?
Well, I'm gonna say this. Like, for one, like, I wasn't like, for Trish Stratus to be back in the WWE on a Legends contract. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't something that really interests me. I'm not saying she's not a great wrestler or whatnot. She transcended women's wrestling. It would have been more of an interest to me. Let's just say if Natalya was out of the WWE and they put her on a Legends deal, that would have made completely sense to me because of the simple fact that she basically molded a lot of that women's locker room. You get what I'm saying? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying Trish Stratus never had the same impact, but I'm talking when you talking about apples and oranges. Like if we talk about who's the better wrestler, you're gonna say Natalya is. You know
Of
what I mean?
course, of
If
course.
you're
Even
going,
even Trish would say that Natalya is the better wrestler. She is in her Mount Rushmore women's wrestlers, and not just Canadian wrestlers, but just women's wrestlers worldwide. She's on her Trish.
yeah,
Natalya's on Trish's Mount Rushmore.
yeah. So
So
I really don't have an answer for that. My only answer is to me personally. I just felt like it was like one of them situations where like we got to empty out some of these contracts because from what I understand is what I heard is TKO got some business situations they gotta like fix. So the best way to do that is to release some money. So what happens is, okay, so I'm going to release some contracts that we're not really that's being used but not really being used. If you think
all right,
about it, our truth was being used, but was he being used in ring action? No. You know what I mean? He was most of the time he was just entertaining everybody. That's what it was. And not to say that, that was so much anything was wrong with it because he made it work for himself. But what I'm saying is that he wasn't doing anything, so they decided to release him. And along with some other people that are getting ready to go too. So, I heard The Miz is out of there. I'm even hearing Carlito, but Carlito wants to leave because he got his
yeah,
own promotion. So his situation is totally different. But the
yeah.
Miz,
They also talking about Gunther might be leaving because Gunther did the same move that The Miz did concerning his social media handle, not mentioning
yeah,
WWE. And
yeah,
if you lose Gunther, dog, who do you hire? I don't look. You and I don't really watch AAA. And could it also? And I would say that as far as AAA goes, could these releases be related to AAA's acquisition?
that's a good question. That's a real good question. I don't really have the answer for that right now. But I know if it has any connections with AAA, like who from AAA are they wanting to bring in to WWE that's gonna fill the shoes of a Gunther? Like I don't see like I watch AAA. Don't get me wrong. I watched them. I can't watch them as frequently as most people might, but I've caught them here and there on YouTube. But
Yeah, me
who
too. That's what I'm
who
saying. When I said we don't really watch it. We don't watch AAA the way we watch AEW and WWE.
no, 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 yeah. But who could they use to fill Gunther's shoes? I mean, the only person that I could see that could possibly do that is Ricky Banderas, but Ricky Banderas is old. Like Ricky Banderas is up there. He's like R Truth's age almost, I believe. But he's a solid performer and he has a similar style mixed with lucha libre, but he has a similar style to Gunther. If you're talking about hard hitting, like strong style type of action, like yeah, Ricky Banderas they called him the Mexican Undertaker. That's what they called him. But his name
Yeah,
was
I've heard that. I've heard that that nickname.
yeah, they called him the
But I
Mexican.
didn't know. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
thought it was a dude in Ring of Honor that was with Bandino over in Ring of Honor.
nah. Ricky Banderas, aka Muertes, he was known as the Mexican Undertaker. I must send you some links. This guy was ruthless. He wore a mask. First of all, he had a dark mask. All right, so you
Mm.
see You see this guy's mask like from the Dark Order on AEW.
Mhm.
Okay, so he
Mhm.
had a mask similar to that, but it was more. It more or less looked like remember the Patriot?
Mhm.
Okay, so picture the Patriot. Picture the Patriot with an evil mask. You know what I'm saying? No stars and stripes. It was like an evil mask, and he was ruthless, man. He had a run in Wrestling Society X. He had some other runs in other indie promotions. He's a former MLW champion. I believe he's a former CCW champion. He's wrestled a lot of the guys that we watch today. He's been in the ring with them. You know,
Okay.
so like he's somebody. I mean, that's the only person I figured that could lace Gunther's boots and be a part of that. But he wouldn't be long term because, like I said, like I haven't seen much of him as of late. I haven't even seen him on a AAA promotion. You know what I'm saying? As of late, so I'm not even sure if he still wrestles or not. But that would be the only person I know that could fill his boots from AAA.
What
You
about a
know?
couple of guys over there from New Japan that's wrestling independent? Well, technically independently with AEW because they're more tied into Stardom and New Japan than they are directly to AEW that has a strong style similar to Gunther as well. You think they would add another Japanese wrestler if Gunther actually was released?
You know what? Nothing will surprise me at this point because like a lot of people are saying like if they're able to release R-Truth, who we all know is a national treasure of professional wrestling, I mean, nothing will surprise me. But to get to a R-Truth point, right? So you have this guy, right, who is literally not hated by anyone in the promotion. No one hates this man. Even the worst person, the scum of the wrestler ring, likes this man. You get what I'm saying? Like, even the scum likes this guy. So it's like, what do you do? Like, you have everybody from all angles around the world saying, what are you doing, WWE? Why are you releasing this man? Like, he didn't do nothing wrong. He didn't have no issues with upper management. The guy was flawless. His record was clean.
Yeah,
Never had any troubles with the promotion or any other promotion outside of WWE. Some people can say that is unheard of. Unheard
it
of.
is because even the first release back in the early 2000s, which led him to go over to TNA, and he cut that promo in the middle of the ring before he had defeated Ken Shamrock to become the NWA TNA champion. He was like, he mentioned WWE. He said, whatever the hell they want to call themselves, why the hell did you release me? For what reason? You know, and it was not a work. That was he was legitimately asking questions of validation. Why?
Mhm.
So if Truth continues to wrestle, God forbid this man goes over to AEW. And I'm not saying that as a knock against AEW, because I legitimately like AEW. But I feel like if he went over there and cut the same in-ring promo that he did 20 plus years ago, I don't know. I don't know how I can go heads or tails on that because both times he has a legitimate reason to gripe and complain.
That's what I'm
You know,
saying. That's what I'm saying. So it's like you gave like I said, I understand business, but was it really business? Was it really? Because if I have an employee that's one of my marquee employees that I can, the man's done everything that you could do possible in professional wrestling. He transcended the sport for the black community. He transcended the sport for the black community. He was the first black African American heavyweight champion for the NWA. You can't
yep,
take that away from him. Like he was the
nope.
first guy to do it. that was
And they
black
haven't had a black champion. They haven't had a black champion with
since.
the original 10 pounds ago since him. Even though Billy
Exactly.
Corgan started the NWA up, he does not. Other than your boy Mims, who's the NWA national champion, it's not a guarantee that he will end up one day wearing the 10 pounds ago to be the second one.
Yeah,
So
it's true. Shout out to Mims, by the way, man. Shout out to Mims, by the way. But
and you know, like you said, he's done a lot for the sport. Um, nobody can ever dispute that from any generation that's been watching WWE program. You cannot dispute what that man has done. You can go back and look at the DVDs. You can go back and look at the YouTube videos. You can go if you got Peacock. You can go back to some of the stuff in the early days of the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era, and look at the stuff that Troop was involved in. You know, both on Raw and SmackDown, to see his contribution. You know, not just and then just like Titus O'Neil. I mean, R-Truth is a global ambassador. You gonna release a global ambassador, but you keep Titus O'Neil.
you see what I'm saying? That's why I said it makes no sense. That's what I'm saying. Like when you the more you dive into it, the more you can see that it really doesn't make any sense because it's like what are you releasing him for? Like every person that was released in the past few months, right? Even though we didn't like them being released, you could at least find one or two things like, okay, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Like Braun Strowman, prime example, right? And this is no knock on Strowman. I'm just saying, right? He got released because his contract is too big. And on top of that, he's got like 15% paralyzed in one of his legs or both his legs or
Left
whatever.
leg in the left leg.
Okay, so we know that, right? So he's released, contract too big, paralyzation in his left leg, right? But you know what the funny part about his release is? That they didn't want to release him, and they could possibly bring him back in an attraction match against whoever. Possibly, when I say that, it could be possibly Royal Rumble or some battle royal stipulation or whatever, and we might see him again. That's what they could bring him back for. We
But
can't.
that's what they actually agreed upon. The release was a mutual agreement. He did a video. He talked about it. It was a podcast interview he also did, where he talked about it more in depth. And everything you just mentioned, he literally said those things. And that WWE also made a statement through TKO Endeavor saying those exact same things, that he will be utilized for gimmick matches such as Royal Rumble, maybe Elimination Chamber here and there. You know, he'll be a special attraction, which I don't find an issue. He doesn't find it an issue because he says what will happen is after he really hangs up his boot, he's not taking the bumps as much. He'll because he's had a handful of surgeries from coming up from NXT, being a part of the Wyatt family originally as the black sheep of the Wyatt family. And, you know, when they just gave him the push to just be a solo attraction, he suffered a shoulder injury. He had a torn tricep or bicep. Then he had I think he had a knee injury he had suffered during the pandemic too. So it's just I don't think Braun Strowman is a liability medically for WWE. I just don't feel like there's not a whole lot you can really do for him for a guy his size. And if he didn't have a paralysis in that leg, he would be one of the most agile big men since the Undertaker. To be honest with you,
I could see
that's the
that.
crazy thing.
I could see that. I could see that. You know, he would have to get a little bit smaller though, because Undertaker was what
6'10", 6'11".
Yeah, so he would have to get a little bit smaller because he's way bigger than Taker. So he would have to lose a good 50 pounds. So you know what I mean. But I could see that. but I don't think he could skill wise. Undertaker was different, so I don't think he
Yes,
could.
I'm just saying, as far as the athleticism, they when he was in NXT, before they paired him up with Bray and everybody, Luke and Eric, um, he was doing stuff that was just unbelievable. I had never seen a guy outside of that tall, first and foremost, that tall, that could do a 450 splash with such grace and effortless when he was in
Him,
NXT.
but you sure that was
Yeah,
Braun Strowman?
it was Braun Strowman.
I gotta look
He did a
this up.
450 splash. He did a 450 splash in a match. I think he was a contenders match for the NXT Championship. It was like a triple threat or a fatal four-way match, and he was in it. And he did a 450 splash out to the outside.
Strowman, I gotta see this, man. I'm gonna have to Google this on YouTube or
It was.
something.
I'm telling you, I ain't gonna make it up. It's dog. I'm not making this up. I was shocked. I'm like, they're about to call this dude up. They about to, because there's no way a dude that big, that agile should have been sitting in NXT. But I understood why he was sitting in NXT, because he came over from being a strongman competitor, and he had very limited wrestling skills. He had an amateur background, but he didn't have any like indies wrestling experience or wrestling experience period before he could go over to WWE. Then he couldn't cut it. He didn't really have no promo mic skills either yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, man,
But,
I gotta look that up. I definitely gotta look that up. But what I'm saying is, in closing, what I'm saying is that you can actually, dig to the surface, dig deep in the surface, dig deep, and really see that, okay, you could find a bunch of things that could possibly be the reason why these people got released, but you can't do the same thing with R-Truth. You just really can't, because there's no explanation for it. It just happened. Now, you spoke about AEW, and I want to say this. If he decides to go to AEW, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea, because I feel like with his experience, with all the negativity that AEW was getting, for locker room BS or whatever you want to call it, he's the guy that can stop all that noise. Like, he has a clean record as far as wrestling. He has a clean record. Like, everybody loves him. Imagine him in a locker room at AEW sitting down with Swerve. Do we see the whole back and forth with Booker T? Probably not. Do we see Swerve going on Vlad TV? Probably not. Imagine him in AEW and he's having a sit-down talk with Jack Perry. Do we see Jack Perry arguing with CM Punk? Probably not. Do we see Darby Allin taking a dive into a plate of glass? Probably not. You get what I'm saying? So the effect that R-Truth would have on an AEW would be nothing but positives. Now, mind you, I mentioned Swerve Strickland. I'm not saying Swerve was wrong. I'm just saying that R-Truth, would have probably had such an impact in that locker room. He probably would have went on Vlad TV, and that we probably wouldn't have got the whole Booker T back and forth. That's what I'm saying. But that's water under the bridge. But what I'm just saying is that the impact that this guy has on the wrestling community could change lives and change the trajectory of what we feel is right and what we feel is wrong. You know what I mean? And another thing, he probably won't be asked to do no funny gimmicks. He did that his whole career. So they probably will actually want to see something serious from him. Imagine.
Yeah, I could see him. If Trump went to AEW, you mentioned the first person that came to mind was Swerve, and or they will release Stokely Carmichael from AEW, because they can't have three guys as serving as a manager. outside of MVP, because MVP technically is not a manager with the Hurt Syndicate. He's just not utilized to wrestle yet, but he did announce he does have a match coming up soon in the AEW ring.
Well, he did wrestle once or twice in a trios match. He did wrestle. He did wrestle, but Bobby and Sheldon carried most of that match. But he did wrestle. What I'm saying is that imagine him in the Hurt Syndicate. Imagine R-Truth versus MJF. Imagine them versus the promos they would cut against each other before they actually had their match. Just think about the money that would draw. You get what I'm saying? Imagine
I get what you're saying.
Imagine R-Truth versus Kenny Omega. You get what I'm saying? Like, I know
I get it. It's just hard for me because of the style of Kenny Omega, the style of MJF. The only person I think personally it would make sense is if he wrestled MVP. He wrestled Chris Jericho. You know, I'm looking at it from a safety perspective. Now, I'm not saying MJF is not safe. Kenny Omega is a question mark for me because Kenny Omega in New Japan, but as high impact and explosive as his moves were, you didn't hear any wrestlers getting injured. Over in AEW, there's been some wrestlers that have inadvertently gotten injured being in the ring with Kenny Omega, whether it's a singles match, tag team, or trios match. You know, they unfortunately have gotten injured based on Kenny Omega's moveset. So that's why I will be kind of hesitant in booking that match.
Yeah. Well, you know, not for nothing, you know, R-Truth got a lot of skin in the game. So it's like he probably could say, well, can we modify this and modify that? Because he probably would know that already. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got, like, this is why I say when that influence could probably save a lot of lives in his situation. You know, that influence can change a lot of things. You know, imagine him going back to TNA, him doing the whole TNA run again.
That to me, that was really my immediate thought. Mm-hmm. That was my immediate thought because another thing that I've been thinking about, right? WWE could, even though they got a partnership behind the scenes or under the table with Booker T's Reality Wrestling, a lot of his wrestlers being sent to NXT after they finished going through the gauntlet in his training. What if they release him and then they just go ahead and pay him out from that little deal, that side deal with his school and his wrestling promotion? Mm-hmm. You know, so they could be done with him, and then Booker ended up going to TNA with Truth, and they do something together. Mm-hmm. That would be something, especially since Trick is a champion.
This is what I'm saying. Like, imagine R-Truth bringing back the TNA title from, like, first of all, winning the TNA title, beating Trick Williams, taking the TNA title back to TNA to have a match with Mike Santana. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the things that I'm looking at, you know, in that perspective, because I think anything is possible now. And I also think too that nothing is under the table at this point. If TKO, WWE, Triple H, whoever can release R-Truth, that means everybody's on a chopping block.
Yeah,
everybody's on. No one is safe, and a lot of wrestlers are saying this. No one is safe. No one is safe. You know.
It's to me, it's just weird, man. Seeing veterans that have made a company what it is today. When I say that R-Truth was the founding father of WWE, In the modern era, yes. In the overall era, no. The overall era, I would not say he's a founding father. I would say um he has a significant role in the history of the WWE from, going going out of the Federation era into the, WWE, when they dropped the F and put the E there, and before the Attitude Era began and the Ruthless Aggression Era. I think he played a pivotal role in that movement, if you will. And then his recognition when he came back from K Quick to R-Truth, it just shows his ability to take what he's given and run with it. I mean, he, like, the same thing could be said about Mark Calloway when Vince told him, "I want you to be the Undertaker." He did so many change-ups with the Undertaker, but he still stayed true to the foundation of what the Undertaker is supposed to be about as a character.
Exactly.
That's what Truth has done. Truth has done the same thing. And people take it for granted about who he is or what he has done. But again, we all expect, we don't have answers. That's the crazy thing about when we hear these releases through social media. The why aspect, we're never going to know because we're not sitting in the meetings. We're not Truth's manager, professional manager or agent or representative. So we don't know. We only know basically what the performer says as to be the case, and wishing his fans love and support, and wants them to continue to support them along the way in whatever endeavor they choose to get involved in. I find it ironic, though, that a lot of the wrestlers that were released prior to WrestleMania, directly after WrestleMania, outside of R-Truth and Carlito announcing, I find it pretty ironic, though, that a lot of them are doing these podcast interviews, and they're talking. It's almost like watching the darker side of wrestling to be told about the WWE through these releases, about what they went through. So I can only imagine if Truth has an NDA, because if Truth has an NDA, he's going to sit on his hands for a good minute before he can talk about things. And one person I was just really, really expecting some sort of message or tribute was The Undertaker. He hasn't come forward to say anything yet. Goldust had. Goldust and Truth were partners for a minute.
I could. You saying Goldust said something, so I could picture that because I know they were together a few times. There's probably going to be a lot of wrestlers that are not going to say much just off the bat just yet because they probably were asked not to. Like, we already know what's going on with Gunther, and I didn't even know Gunther and Truth was even that cool like that. But that just goes to show you the influence that he had on the professional wrestling world. Like, he really is a national treasure. He really is one of them guys. So, getting back to what I said before, I just want to see what happens with him next. Is he going to actively stay in the ring, or will he bow out gracefully and do his other ventures, which we all know he's a terrific hip-hop artist. A lot of people don't understand. Like, Truth was about that life before life even existed. That's how
True that.
he was out there. He was out there.
Did you see the video I sent you that he was sitting in his basement and he was just freestyling, but the music was playing, but you could barely hear the music. It was him just cutting bars.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, could you imagine if R-Truth had just focused on his music and never delve into professional wrestling, what we probably could have got out of him? This guy was already brushing noses with Pac, Eazy-E. He could have been along the lines of one of them dudes. You never know.
Well, he went on the record and said, because they had, like, Chris Van Vliet, he had a photo of Truth and Pac together, and he said, "Is this a real photo? Was this Photoshop?" He said, "No, it's a real photo." So then also I've heard Master P had mentioned R-Truth, you know, and he was supposed to go. He was supposed to be signed. So is it this is the thing when Truth was talking about the showcase he was going to? The last showcase he had went to right before his first child, his oldest child was born. Right, I think it was a son. His son was the oldest one. He was trying to decide to sign with No Limits, Ruthless Records, which was Easy E before Easy passed. He wasn't going to sign with Death Row, because you know he knew. People were telling him don't sign with Death Row. So then he also had Def Jam. Russell Simmons people were trying to get him before Def Jam South was founded. So then when Def Jam South was founded, around the time he was wrestling, starting doing indie shows and stuff before WWE had noticed him, he was leaning towards going over to Def Jam South right before Ludacris had brought it out. When they broke up all the different flavors of Def Jam, so he was looking to. Luda was like, I might sign this guy, but they couldn't work out a deal because what I understand, he never had any beef with Luda. As a matter of fact, he some of the beats and a couple of his albums came from Truth.
See what I'm saying? So it's like he didn't have choices. Like he could have went a different route and still have been successful. You know what I mean? R-Truth was P.D. Pablo before P.D. Pablo. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
R-Truth was Mystical before Mystical, minus the other stuff that happened with Mystical. Let's just put it, you know what I'm saying?
He asked Truth gave Mystical that name.
Yeah?
But because Master P went on the record, he didn't implicate in naming R-Truth, right? Mystical was not a family name for Master P's brother. That was not a nickname in the family. And because Truth was like, I'm not using this name. Why don't you go ahead and use this name? He thought about using that name as his stage name, but he was like, nah, I'm gonna go ahead and let somebody else take it. So they had a pad and went through names. He said, well, you should choose this name. That's how I stuck.
Well, you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about, But at the end of the day, all us fans, us genuine wrestling fans, just want the best for R-Truth. Whatever he decides to do, we just want the best for him because he deserves it. He deserves it. He's put in the work. He deserves that time to do whatever he wants, whatever he sees fit. And
Exactly.
I couldn't say anything else more than that.
I would like to see Truth, honestly. Let him. Okay, it's June 2nd. How about give him 90 days? Let him chill out. Let him just do whatever, right? Based on whenever his actual release is from WWE. Let's say his release is around SummerSlam time. For the sake of argument, let's say it's around then. Let's say he sits out the remainder of 2025. 2026, they add him in as a coach to NXT, to the PC.
That could be something. Him and Javon Evans, I see them doing. They could work some magic with him and Javon Evans, if that was possible. But
yeah. So, I'm looking at it like this: him announcing he's being released. I wanted to think it was a story. It was kayfabe.
mm-hmm.
But then when people were asking, is it true or not? And I was like, let me go ahead and Google it. Once I saw it was in CBS Sports, I was like, oh, this is true. If CBS Sports has it, it's true.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's true. But
Yep.
then I was like, the fact that Caleb Braxton was one of the first people on Twitter and Instagram, you know, with a heartbreak emoji, like what? And then, excuse me, Samantha had a what the F, you know, and then Ricochet said something, you know. I was like, I wasn't expecting Ricochet to say anything because you know, I'm still under the impression he still has beef with WWE, and you know, but then
No,
he
he
just
got
goes
beef
to,
with WWE, but not R-Truth. You know what I mean?
right,
R-Truth is just a
right. But
different
I
guy.
still wasn't expecting him to say anything because he's tied to WWE. That's why I wasn't expecting anything from Ricochet. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
then with Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, and Matt Cardona, both of them saying that.
Hmm.
I was more shocked with what Dolph had to say than I
Hmm.
was with Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder. You know, I was more shocked with that. And then I got a notification now that Heath Slater just said something.
Hmm.
I got it, and then it's like this is still. I mean, this is still trending for truth. It's like we may not. This whole thing may make WWE backpedal. If
Hmm.
WWE backpedals and meets the numbers that Truth is looking at, but then again, it might not be a true. It might not be a numbers thing. It might not be about money. It might just be about how many times he got to be on the road in the back versus being at home.
It could
You
be.
know,
It could be. At the end of the day, we really don't know, and we can only speculate. But like I
right?
said, you know, we all want the best for him, and you know that's what I feel matters the most is him having the best life he could possibly have, regardless if it's wrestling related or not. You know what I mean? We all
Right.
grew up on R-Truth. We know who he is. We know what he's done for the sport. So you know, that's how we looking at it.
What do you think? Since we're both watching Raw at the same time we're doing this, what's your impression of? I mean, we love. I would assume that you love Stephanie McCool as much as I do. You know, as far as her in-ring ability.
Hmm.
Were you impressed with what you saw in her qualifying match, or do you feel like she kind of toned it down than she did in the previous two matches she had on Raw? Now that she's officially signed to Raw.
Well, you know, to not, you know, speak on her in ring ability because her in ring ability is flawless. WWE just probably told her to tone it down because you got to understand, like her ability is very high impact moves, submission, ground and pound. That's what Stephanie Van Court does the best. She's very technical. There's a lot of facets that she has within her arsenal. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of stuff she has within her
Mm-hmm.
arsenal that we haven't even seen yet. So they probably just told her to tone it down. I mean, yeah, it seemed kind of a little bit mellowed out a little bit, but I don't think it was necessary for her to do much. You know what I mean? You, she still has to complete the match. There was other people in that ring besides her,
Yeah.
so her winning the match, not a surprise to me. When I heard about it, I automatically knew already that she was going to win. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I was expecting. I felt like when I knew she was going to be a part of the qualifying team, I was like, "There's no way you're going to have her not qualify."
yeah.
And then I started thinking as the match was going on, the two NXT call ups that's on Raw, they have a 1 in 6 chance of grabbing that contract off the lap.
Mm-hmm.
For you know, is Roxanne Perez and Stephanie. Those two, I don't see anybody, regardless of what we have over on SmackDown side. Even if Naomi's the high favorite, I honestly believe you need to keep an eye out on both. Once the match starts next weekend, you need to keep an eye out on um, Roxanne Perez and Stephanie McCoy.
Well,
Because something tells me, based on what they do in that match with that ladder, is going to the trajectory of the remainder of 2025 for them, each of them is going to be phenomenal. We know what Roxanne Perez can do. We know what Stephanie can do. But based on them both being in this, and then let's not even worry about Worlds Collide, teaming up with Lola Vice. Because I honestly feel they're going to have Lola carry the match more than Stephanie just for the sake of it. Just to give Lola Vice more over heading back to NXT to go up against what's her name? Jaden Jace for the NXT Women's Championship. That's what I think, because that's how you're gonna look at it. And then concerning, like I said before, remember when Roxanne was kept coming into WWE as a part-timer, so to speak? She was coming up to Raw as a part-timer, so to speak, but she was getting up in the face of Lyra, and then she did have a non-title match against her, and she took her to the limit. If Lyra retains the Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch at Money in the Bank, who else but all people but but Roxanne Perez to dethrone her?
Yeah, I get it.
Since Dakota Kai got injured, and now Zoe Stark got injured, that to me, I always felt that Roxanne Perez would have been the dark horse sleeper to dethrone Lyra for the Intercontinental Championship.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see. As far as that goes, we'll have to just find out. But yeah, that was a great conversation, and we're definitely going to keep close tabs on this whole R-Truth issue, because I think it's going to get a lot deeper quickly, and there's going to be a lot of things that's going to pop up. Me and my boy right here going to keep tabs on it, and we'll deliver the news as we see it. I'm going to deliver the news as we see it if I catch something. But I definitely wanted to bring Jay Styles in here today to discuss this, because I know the historian always got some exclusives. So,
and right now we're sitting on eggs. We're kind of in pause, ladies and gentlemen, concerning more wrestling news as far as the world being put on a buzz, so to speak. The only thing really we have to announce, which was announced actually Friday, it is official. It is officially confirmed. WWE did put it on display last Friday on SmackDown, the Women's Evolution. Everybody's talking about where they're going up against AEW, and their shows and everything, Regardless, it's needed to happen. The timing was a little shady, yes. And then people saying, well, they also going up against Beyonce, who's a world-renowned artist and everything else. Even if it was Taylor Swift, they still would have done it. With the little girls, whether black, white, brown, yellow, green, red, whatever, but they would have told their mommy and daddy, hey, I want to go to Evolution. If you live in the Atlanta area, would you have been like, I'd rather see Beyonce or I want to see Evolution? I assure you, the tickets for Evolution, and it's gonna be damn near sold out crowd for Evolution. It's gonna be a damn near sold out crowd. I don't care what may speculate between now and then, based on the fact that Beyonce is gonna be performing less than 15 minutes away over at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It doesn't matter. Wrestling is wrestling. Wrestling been around before Beyonce. Wrestling will continue to be around after Beyonce.
Well, here's the thing. Because I want us to close out. Here's the thing, right? So, why even put Evolution in that same situation as far as lining up with Beyonce concert? Like, to me personally, to me personally, it's like you're either, when in that type of situation, you're either going to sink or you're going to swim. You know, I understand what they were trying to do, but I don't think it was the best idea. Let women's evolution have their own day to themselves and not have to share it with nobody, and let them build up their own buzz on their own. Don't try to line them up with a blockbuster like Beyonce and thinking that the fans from a Beyonce concert is gonna go over to an evolution, because promise you this, the fans from a Beyonce concert would probably know about professional wrestling, but honestly speaking, they're not gonna go watch professional wrestling because
That's true.
most of those fans, they probably don't even like wrestling. To be honest with you, they probably don't. They probably don't even like wrestling. So that's why I'm saying, like, give Evolution their own day and let them promote their joint. Like, don't have that sink or swim attitude with, lining them up with a global phenomenon like Beyonce, because it's gonna be tough for them, because it's not like women's evolution is established. This is only the second one. This is
Right.
only the second one. Since the first one was back in, like, what, 2016, 2017?
18. 18.
2018. Okay. That was the first one. So I don't think that is was a good idea. But hey, let's just see what happens, and we just move
I think the
forward.
only way, from a promo perspective, that it could work is if you have somebody like Megan the Stallion helping promote the show. As far as like a celebrity host, so to
Well,
speak.
they just had Sexy Red, and they got what's his face promoting SummerSlam right now.
Cardi B.
Cardi B.
Cardi B.
So I honestly, bro, I don't even think that would add anything to it, because fans are fickle. You know what I mean? Fans are weird. I don't think that would add anything to it. Now, if they got somebody that is a legitimate wrestling fan and it's in the hip hop game and is doing it like that, then you might be able to get away with a few things. But like I said,
The only other person I think they could save it from a promotional perspective that's not a woman of color is Taylor Swift. I hate to say it. That's the only other person that, if she did a cut a promo for WWE talking about evolution, that's the only way you're going to take away some of the interest off of Beyonce.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's a wait and see moment,
Yeah.
And then on top of that, also that weekend at State Farm Arena, if I'm not mistaken, the Big Three had the game early in that day.
Oh, what you mean the big three?
Ice Cube's league.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if anything, Ice Cube's league would probably benefit off of that joint. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, Ice Cube's league would probably benefit off of that, because that's basketball. So
Yeah, I'm just saying it's going to be a busy weekend. It's going to be a busy Saturday in particular.
Yeah.
For the city of Atlanta. It just, it's like people were saying, I think, who was that? I think it was either Mr. Entertainment or somebody else who has said the traffic in Atlanta is going to be ridiculous.
Most likely.
And I, it's like, but here's the thing that gets me, man, concerning this, outside of the Beyonce ass, well, still related to Beyonce ass, but actually, the ticket price, right? Most black people in Atlanta are going to spend that money. They're going to spend that money to go see Beyonce in the Beehive.
Yeah.
But the ticket prices have not been officially released yet for Evolution until this, I think, either Wednesday or Thursday. That's when they release the ticket on Ticketmaster for Evolution. There's speculation that the tickets won't be nowhere as high as WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, or Royal Rumble. They're saying that the ticket prices may be considered what AEW has been doing for the last few shows around that ballpark. And that's a slap in the face to women's wrestling if you do that.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I just go back to what I said before. Like, we'll just have to see how it's going to all pan out, you know. So I don't want to throw any more speculations out there until I just see for myself what it is, and then I could just basically, you know, accurately say, okay, this is what it is, this is what's happening, and whatever like that, you know. But as far as like the old R-Truth thing, my opinion stays the same. I really think, you know, it's all about what he's gonna do for himself now that he's free of WWE. Let's see what he's gonna do. Let's wait a few weeks and see what he has in store for himself. Let's see if another promotion is gonna jump into that bidding bag and try to reel him in. Or let's see if he just chose the path of going back to his music and working with his daughter, like you said. Let's just see if he does that. But that's the conversation for the day. We definitely will talk more about this in incoming days, weeks, whatever. However this turns out, we're going to be covering it. It's your boys S with special guest Jay Styles, the historian. We'll be back with another one. BARZ Wrestling Media.